Well, hey, vinyl community, Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records, and I've got a book review for you. You might enjoy. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I thought I would talk about it just a little bit uh, to possibly pique someone's interest to go out and read it. It's Drums and Demons: The Tragic Journey of Jim Gordon, and it's by Joel Selvin. And Joel Selvin is a San Francisco area writer, has wrote for decades for the San Francisco Chronicle, has written several rock and roll music related books, and this, of course, is his latest. Drums and Demons, it's called. Jim Gordon, a tragic life for sure. A lot of you, I'm sure, are familiar with some of the things about his life. Grew up in California, not far from Los Angeles, and drumming was something that he took to at a very young age, and just immersed himself in drumming. And many people believe he became the, the 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 best drummer in rock and roll history. I'm sure there are others that would argue that point, but he is definitely considered one of the true greats. It goes through his early life, and by his mid-teens, he was making some waves in music, playing in bands, and beginning in his late teens to get some recording sessions, and really impressing people with his abilities as a drummer. And he would spend several years as what would later become known as a part of the Wrecking Crew. They were not known as that during their time in Los Angeles and doing the studio sessions, but he became a very important part of that core of musicians that that played on so many different wonderful recordings. And he branched out into doing live performances, and went from being a very, very straight laced conformist in his lifestyle to being a rock and roller, uh, as you would imagine one in the late 60s or early 70s. Meanwhile, during this whole time, he's struggling with mental illness. He is eventually diagnosed as being schizophrenic, although there were a number of different diagnoses that were made by different doctors, depending on who you ask. But basically, it boiled down to he had his entire life heard voices in his head, and over the years, those voices became more and more dominant in his existence, and he struggled with those voices. And they went from being reassuring and encouraging to a really dark place for him. I won't go into all the details. And you can read the book and find out what actually happened. But ultimately, he spent his last half of his life. He passed away last year. Spent the last half of his life in a California penal institution uh, for an awful crime he committed, and this tells that story of Jim Gordon. Uh, the last half of his life, it doesn't go into much detail at all, because I guess there's not a lot to say about someone who is, serving a lifetime sentence in prison. He was quiet and kept to himself pretty much. He wasn't involved in the music making of inmates there in the prison where he was housed or anything like that. So there's not a lot to tell about that. But it's a tragic story, uh, and it's an interesting story about the music industry as well. So I think there's a lot you can get from this book. The recordings he played on, just you can't even begin to name them all, but I'll name a few of them for you. You can see the the great variety of recordings that he added to, and in large part, what he added to the music probably are some of the things that made many of these songs hits. Like he was on Ike and Tina Turner's River Deep Mountain High, uh, the Monkees, Mary Mary, Paul Revere and the Raiders, The Great Airplane Strike, Merle Haggard, The Bottle Let Me Down, The Beach Boys, God Only Knows, Different Drummer from the Stone Ponies, Nelson's Everybody's Talking, Sonny and Cher, The Beat Goes On, Judy Collins, Who Knows Where the Time Goes, Glenn Campbell, Gentle on My Mind, and Wichita Lineman, and others. How about Mason Williams, Classic Gas, Arlo Guthrie, Coming In from Los Angeles, Tiny Tim, Tiptoe Through the Tulips, uh, Joe Cocker's The Letter, Leon Russell, uh, Pisces Apple Lady, Carly Simon's You're So Vain, Derek and the Dominoes' Layla, Seals and Croft, Summer Breeze, Traffic, The Low Spark of High Heel Boys, B.W. Stevenson, My Maria, Coconut from Nelson, Ricky Don't Lose That Number from Steely Dan, Chevy Van from Sammy Johns, Rock the Boat from the Hughes Corporation, Thank God I'm a Country Boy, John Denver. There's a Kind of Hush from the Carpenters, and the theme from the Rockford Files by Mike Post. Those are just a few of the songs he played on. He toured, he was part of the Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour. He was a part of the band Derek and the Dominoes, both in the studio and on tour. And he played for Andy Williams in a run in Las Vegas. Pick up the book, give it a read. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay? Drums and Demons, The Tragic Journey of Jim Gordon by Joel Selvin.